look, I'm passionate about helping businesses grow, and I'm a fanatic about it. As long as I have that opportunity, I'll stay here and help you. But as soon as that opportunity's gone and I'm stagnant, I'm out.
Welcome to another installment of the Perspective Podcast. My name is Devin. This is my co-host Mitch Harley, and today we have on, fresh off of the viral train, the one and only Gary Bird. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Hey, thanks so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man. I have found you on TikTok, and I've been following your stuff, and there is an abundance of value in all of the stuff and the content that you share. And I was shooting for the stars here because I know our show is not really that big, but I decided to reach out and have you on and ask if you'd be interested. And when you said yes, I was super excited. So I have a pretty good background on who you are, where you came from. But for the sake of the listeners, I'd love to get your side of the story. Where you came from, what are you doing, and what drew you to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2008, I started off as I had a job, and it was a pretty good paying job, super boring. And I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't know what an entrepreneur really was. I was in my early 20s, and there was keep in mind, there's no YouTube and stuff like that yet. Like, it wasn't big that you could just go look things up and figure things out. And so every year or so, I would just change jobs because I'd get bored with it. I did a lot of sales and different things like that. And one day, someone came to me and said, "Hey, I got this company. You can use their software to send out emails for businesses." So this kind of dates me a little bit here. And
who was that?
It was a company called Sudden Values at the time. I don't think they may be around still, but it was a smaller company. But they had a package that you paid them $500 a month, and they let you use their software, and then you got a territory. And so I went out, and like a year, I sold tons of accounts, and I realized right away, well, email marketing is going to become everybody's going to be able to do email marketing. So I need to pivot to some other things. So I started learning SEO, web development. I partnered with somebody at the time. They were doing social. And so I just kept adding offering. And eventually I got to the place where we were probably doing, probably about $100,000 a month, $150,000 a month in recurring revenue, maybe a little bit more. And we split the company. So I said, "Hey, I'm only going to focus on dental." My partner took everything else. Well, we exploded, and we exploded up to about $350,000. That was right up until COVID, that we were at doing about $350,000 a month in recurring revenue. And right after COVID, we jumped to right over $1 million. So we 3x, almost, a little bit over 3x. And we're sitting at about 1.5. So in the last 2 years, we've 5x the business. And we only focus on dental groups. That's it. Like, just dental groups that want to grow. That's the only people that we help. So a lot of times people are like, "Well, why are you going on these podcasts? Why are you doing TikToks? Why are you doing all this stuff?" What I realized early on is like, okay, for me to build this agency, the things that used to work for me will actually work against me, right? So when I started out, it was about grind. It was about hustle. It was about figuring it out and fixing everybody's problem. As you grow and you get to a certain size team, you have to stop doing that, and you have to actually get people around you that are going to solve problems. You have to allow them to solve the problems. You have to get better at leadership. You have to learn a lot of things that are just frankly not out there. You can't access it, right? It was like the early days of me doing email marketing. It wasn't accessible. The business coaching and things like that, you can go get it, but it's expensive, and you're probably going to strike out many times until you get somebody who actually helps you. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to start talking about the things because I have a little bit more free time now. I'm going to start, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so I have to be doing something, right? So I'm like, I'm going to actually talk about all the struggles that I went through and all the blessings that come along with it, right? There's two sides to the coin. And it really started resonating with people. And so I was like, maybe I'll start helping entrepreneurs. But then I talked to a couple marketing agencies, and these marketing agencies were like, "Gary, you're literally speaking to my soul. Like, what you just said right now is like, so like, it literally like freed my brain up." So I was like, okay, that's my audience. I'm going to help agencies because that's what I know. And I know the pain that they're going through. And I know everybody's trying to sell them something all the time. I'm not going to sell them anything. So every day I go live at 4 p.m. and it's just, my team knows, they're all there. and we go live every day. And so when people reach out and say, hey, I want to talk to you, can I steal 5 seconds of your time? I'm like, I'll give you an hour. Come on TikTok live. I'll give you all the time you want. Then if they say, well, Gary, I got follow-up questions. I get stuck here. I get stuck there. I created a Discord community. It has about 400, 500 people in it. You know how Discord is. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, but there's people there. And I'll answer any question there. So if you have a question and I have answers, I'll not only answer it, I'll give you the SOP on it. I'll give you like how we worked around it, or I'll get one of my team members on it to help. I really believe that that's a great way to learn, is teaching other people. And then from there, I was like, there were still people that were like, I need more help. And so we built a mastermind. It's free too. And so we have a mastermind. We hold people, basically my job is to hold people accountable in that mastermind, and just like, okay, you said you were going to do this. Did you do it? And work through that. And I have a team of people that help me with that. And right now I'm working on several courses. They're all going to be free as well. How to get rid of cold leads in your agency, only work off a warm lead, stuff like that. Just stuff that I wish I would have learned earlier. And so, yeah, I'm just having fun doing that, connecting with people. And I was super quick to say yes to come on your podcast, because that's what I love to do. I love connecting with people. I actually, these last 2 weeks, I've done 21 podcast or webinars in 9 days, because I'm actually out of town Friday. So in 9 days, we crank those out. So that I'm planning on keeping that momentum going.
I was wondering why you were so practiced and knew exactly what to say when I asked that question. Wow. So there's a ton of things that you're doing. One of the arguments that I get a lot when I'm talking to people about, their social media presence and stuff like that, is that TikTok as a primary isn't effective in terms of growing your business. I'm hoping to hear the contrary from you, but what has been your experience in, putting yourself out there on that space?
I think people who say that just don't really probably understand marketing, right? So, in which are not wrong, but they're also not right. So what I would say, like a more technical answer would be, is TikTok is a top of funnel tool. It's not a bottom of funnel tool, right? And the reason for that, like Instagram's closer to the bottom of funnel tool. And the reason for that is, if you follow me, if I get you to follow me on Instagram, I know you're going to see my stories, and I know that you're going to see every post for the most part, right? TikTok, it's totally random. Like I think I have like 70,000 followers, 69,000 followers, something like that. Sometimes I post videos and only 1,000 people see it. It's like, okay, what about happened to the other 59,000 people? And it's a top of funnel tool. You can get in front of a lot of people really, really fast. So think of it more of like a television ad. You know what I mean? Like back in the good old days, like that's what it's closer to, where the other tools that you may have in your arsenal are more bottom of funnel, or getting closer to the bottom. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. But if you're just like, yeah, TikTok is all I do and it doesn't work for me, that's probably why.
So it's interesting you say that, because what I've noticed when I look at whether it's somebody that's let's just say kind of entry level or newer to the social media world, or somebody that has quite a presence like yourself, and even guys like your Gary V's of the world. When you go to their TikTok and you look at their following, it's usually a really big number. And then their Facebook is a smaller number, same content, smaller number, Instagram, small. And then their LinkedIn is probably their smallest number.
Yeah.
And I find it almost like niching down. It's not that they're followers, but I put a little bit less credibility into the TikTok following number, because when you look at, say, people who follow on LinkedIn usually follow for a purpose, not for a trend.
Yeah.
Whereas like on TikTok, they tend to follow on a trend. So as long as you're current, yeah, you're probably going to keep getting your views. But like you said, you could have 3 virals in a row and then a flop for no reason other than TikTok hates your face that day. Yeah. Like there is no rhyme or reason, but the other networks, they seem to be a little bit more consistent, even though the numbers are smaller.
So like they're different business models, right? So TikTok is literally said, in the way that it's set up, it's for entertainment. It's not just a social media platform. And what I mean by that is go try to watch TikTok and send a text message and send an email and do all those other things on your phone. You can't. You have to engage with the app as you're using it. It's made for entertainment. That's what it's made for. Yes, some people use it for education. Yes, some people you can do different things like what I'm doing, where I'm kind of doing like, here's what I learned today, right? You can do all of that, but it's still entertainment. Now, Instagram or YouTube is different. I can turn on a podcast on YouTube and take a shower and you can't do that with TikTok. I can listen to YouTube while I drive. Try doing that to TikTok while you drive, right? Like you can't. You have to be 100% immersed in the app. So you have to understand that. That's number one. Number two, you can't build community on TikTok. Like I guess you can. There's been a couple people who've done it who got funny and very memeable comments and things like that. But at like a real community where like we know each other and we know we're all going to be here at the same time at the same place, you can build that on other platforms. And so and that's not bad or good. It's just different, right? Like it's just a different model.
It's knowing the personality of the platform that you're working on.
Yeah. And I think where TikTok has to be careful is that if you're competing on just purely an entertainment standpoint, right? Then it's very easy for somebody else to come in and steal that attention and very, very quickly if you do it properly, right? And and then the other social media platforms have to be careful too, because they if they try to compete in the entertainment platform and they lose some of the other things that they have going on, then that's going to cost them, right? So there's definitely a balance there. Like I love the people. I have 1,000 I have 70,000 on TikTok. To your point, I have I think 1,000 followers on Instagram. But the people on Instagram, they're always there, right? Like it's a slow build. Every video is like, okay, now I'm getting 10 comments and then 20 comments, right? Like it's a slow build. Where TikTok, again, sometimes I'll have a video that gets thousands of comments and then I'll have another one no one comments on. It's crazy.
So when you're jumping across the different platforms, do you just repurpose existing content that you have and reframe it, or do you use each space for a different purpose?
You should use, like as a marketer, you should use all the places differently. And I do kind of, right? So like the short form videos that do well on TikTok happen to do decently well on Reels, and Reels are interesting too because Reels are their algorithm's even more random than TikTok. I think TikTok does a really good job with their algorithm, where Instagram, I don't think they built an algorithm before. It was like, yeah, follow people and connect with them. And then here's videos that everybody likes. And so I still get a bunch of stuff in my feed that I'm like, why am I seeing this? You know what I mean? TikTok, I don't get that. I filtered out all the stuff that I don't like. Where YouTube's algorithm is really good, right? Like YouTube knows what kind of documentaries I like and what kind of business shows that I like. So I think that what I'm working on is, okay, I have my podcast. I have 3 podcasts. One's fully launched. One launches this month. One launches next month. They're all totally different. I'm going to take those and repurpose those on like Reels and different cuts like that. Then I have the parts of those that will go to YouTube, which I think YouTube does a really good job with some of the short form stuff. So we play with that. And then I'm working on, I'm not really good. I'm better at communicating like this, but I'm not as good at like writing things out. It never hits right. So I have actually a copy person that helps me with that. So he sits on all my lives, he sits on all my podcasts, and then he pulls all the key stuff out and then rewrites it. So I've been working, I actually got my first Twitter comment today. Nice. And I reposted that on Facebook kind of as a joke, you know, hey, I got my first Twitter comment, but I just started posting on there like 3 weeks ago. And then, but what I'm finding is the Twitter content actually relates pretty well to the LinkedIn content, right? It's the same, like, hey, here's the header. You should know this. Go down to the comments, read the comments. And I think LinkedIn is an amazing platform. Like when I do it right and I focus, I'll get 1,000, 2,000 views on that post, but it's all people that I want to be in front of, right? Like it's
those are the ones
LinkedIn's definitely niched down when you have a clear vision of what you want to achieve. Like LinkedIn for us, so we just broke our 1-year anniversary on the show.
That's awesome.
And I would say 90% of our guests have been because of LinkedIn. And because the way to communicate on LinkedIn is, yes, there's always scammers. Doesn't matter what platform you're on. There's a lot of, kind of that, salesy type messaging, but there's also a lot more organic messaging. Some of the people I've reached out to on LinkedIn, it was like, they probably never would have responded on any other platform, but there was something different about LinkedIn. I worked very hard on the message to make sure it was organic and authentic. And I found that that can get lost on other platforms. So I do have to give LinkedIn a complete props on its ability to connect properly the right connections.
Well, and they did a good job of pivoting, right? They were like, "Oh, we're going to do stories," and then, "Oh, never mind," right? And now they're like, "Good job, guys! Like, you figured it out. It's not what people are like. No one goes there to see what people are doing day to day. People go there to get the business wrap up of what everybody's doing, and that's what they should own. And really, where their play is in the recruiting. Like for the next 3 to 5 years, if it's going to be continue to be, unless there's just like a massive turn in the massive layoffs." Like it's going to be all about hiring people. There's not enough people to hire, and that's big money. Like people will pay anything to get the talent that they want. Anything, any amount of money.
You know what? I'd love to get your insight on this, because this is actually a common thing we talk about on the show is, employee-employer relationships. One of the arguments that we make is that there are algorithms out there now that are disqualifying people based on certain criteria that they've entered into their, let's say, their resume or their cover letter or whatever it is, but they're getting disqualified without even having an opportunity to be seen. And the argument that both me and Mitch kind of agree on here is that it's not necessarily how much time you've spent doing something. It's more about how well you do the thing. For example, I could do SEO for 10 years, but like at the bare minimum, just really, really shitty quality. I'm not, holding up my end of the bargain. I'm just doing the bare minimum to get by. But I have 10 years, whereas somebody who does like the full in-depth audit, all the other elements that you need into it, but they've only done it for a year. I would argue that person's more qualified for the position. But I'd love to get your feedback on that. Like, where do you think, in terms of like recruiting and growing your team, we're evolving to?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. So there's a lot to this. So I'll go a couple different directions on you. So, and if I'm off base on any of this, if you're like, no, you misunderstood my question, please stop me. So, first of all, the smaller your company is, the less resources you have, money, right? So when you have less money, then you want to bring people in and you have to spend time with them to train them. And you have to spend more time on systems around that individual, right? And so you bring in a younger person that may not know all this stuff, and you have to work with them. And so what you're trading there is you're trading your time for money, right? That's like straight up is what you're doing. So that's one model. Then as you grow, you have more money, right? So you have more resources. So you'll pay more, and then you have to invest less into all the infrastructure. You still have to have infrastructure, but it's less because that individual has more knowledge and they have more experience, and you're paying for that. And so you're spending, me as the leader, spending less time with that manager because they already know how to solve the problem. They already know how to, they already know, they have the roadmap, right? And so it's just a time versus money aspect at that point, where it gets tricky for people who are hiring marketing agencies. I think there's a fundamental flaw in marketing. And what it basically is I'll use the dental industry as an example. If you guys were in pain and you went to the dentist and you're like, hey, I'm in pain. All you want is the dentist to get you out of pain and restore your teeth back to like the basic state that they were in, right? That's all you want. You don't actually say that though. You just go, I'm in pain. Can you help me out, doc? And the doctor's smart enough to know, yes, I can. They don't go into teaching you biology. They don't let you make a billion choices. They just say, look, we're going to take the tooth out. We're going to have to do this, this, and this. You're going to need an implant, whatever, right? And they explain it to you in layman's terms usually. And in marketing, unfortunately, what happens is people are like, hey, my website stinks. And what does the website company say? We can build you a new one, but they don't drill any deeper. The person will maybe need, they say, oh, I need help with social media. Social media company goes, we'll help you, but they don't dig any deeper. Really, at the core, the only reason that people work with marketing is to get more customers. That's it. Like, that's fundamentally all that we have to offer, but people don't drive to that. And I think that's why people have a bad taste like about the marketing industry. So I kind of went off on a tangent on that part, but I want to circle back to your first question. I think there's also this overseas play that's happening right now in the employment industry. And so like, I'll give you something that I'm working on that I think everybody should do as an agency. So we want a really high skilled ad person that can help us with our agency, can help me run ads for my stuff, for personal brand stuff, if I want to drive traffic for stuff, and also our SaaS product, right? So you got to be really high skilled to do that, right? Like that's a wide skill set. Well, you're not going to go hire somebody like that for $5,000 a month. Like they're just not going to have that skill set. We want to move fast. We want to spend the money. Most of the people who have that skill set are going to be an agency or their own company, or they're gonna charge for the strategy, right? Which is great. So what we're going to do is go hire one of those people, then go hire VAs who have the skill set, the technical skill set, but not the strategy skill set. And we're going to pay them $500, $1,000 a month. We're going to slot each one of them in different positions in the company of like where the different strategies are needed. And then the strategist comes in and says, here's my strategy. The VAs will then execute on the strategy, and then they'll pump the data back up. Yeah, it worked. No, it didn't. Here's what we need to pivot and change. And basically what we did is just 3x, 4x the bandwidth of one person with a very small, modest bump in pay because we're paying the VAs, right? And I think that's the future of what we're doing in the marketing agencies. I think that's where a lot of people are going to go.
So it's cheap labor for the technical skills in places where that's possible, while still maintaining the high level strategy from somebody who has just a deeper understanding of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's brilliant.
But going back to the question and applying it to what your point is. So our argument is there are qualified people. No matter what you're looking for, there's somebody qualified out there. Mm-hmm. What we're finding is those people are getting discarded because of either AI or a bad screening process or a hiring manager that maybe isn't on point, right? So for you to find that key strategy guy, because that's important. I mean, if you find the wrong one, you got to kind of start over. You can find the VAs all you want, but it's the strategy guy. Is that an in-person? Like, what do you look? Do you use AI? Like, how do you find that person, or what is your strategy to find that person, or at least couple candidates?
So that particular one, like those people all market themselves and they're out there, right? Like the people that are like, we do Facebook ads, we do IG ads, we build funnels. This is what we do. So those guys are easy to find, right? So it's going to be like a private contract. It won't be in person, and it's a 1099 job. So it's like, here's your $5,000 a month. We want this much time. So there is no, I don't take them through HR, any of that kind of stuff. But to your point, yeah, HR, like people can get trapped in that. How we like moving to a different position, like if we were hiring for an account manager or something like that. So what we do is how we filter through is first of all, when we put the job post up, we try to put it everywhere that we possibly can, but then we're looking for people with dental experience for our agency, right? And so we will usually know where to go post that job, where we'll be able to pull people who have industry experience. That helps drive traffic and people over to that. To your point, does everybody in the whole world see that job post? No, of course not. There's always going to be some kind of limiting factor to that. We also post it on the job sites and those kind of things. From there, we then get usually too many applications. So we usually put an Easter egg in the screening. We do this for the VAs as well. It works really well. So like just randomly in the middle, we'll be like, what's your favorite book? Make sure you include that in your cover letter. Anybody who doesn't include that in their cover letter, didn't read the job post, doesn't know what they're applying for, they're automatically excluded. So even if we get 100 applications, and what we have found is about 10% of people actually read the job post. So most people who are applying aren't reading the job post. So
just apply.
Yeah, I like that.
And they're like,
I like that.
They're filtering their own. Here's the thing, that they have their own filter system too, right? They're like, we'll apply for everybody, and then we'll kind of compare jobs. Well, that's what there's holes on both sides, right? There's definitely holes on both sides. So then the next thing is that we have then HR is to screen for culture. That's it. Like, does this person fit culturally? And if the answer is yes, so then now we have 10 people that fit culturally, and they have questions that they work through and those kind of things. And then if they fit culturally, then we move to the technical. So who on our team can talk to them and understand? Like if you came to me and you're like, we'll hire somebody for NFTs, like you could pull the wool over my eyes really quick, and I'd be like, oh, that's like blockchain and you know what I mean, Bitcoin. Yeah, that sounds really good, right? Like I wouldn't know if you were good or not. So we need to bring somebody in technically that knows that this person knows what they're doing. And then the manager who would manage that person says, this person fits culturally, technically they fit do they fit in my team, and does like this work with my team and what I'm trying to build and the direction I'm trying to go? So that's the filter system that we use. It's worked really well. And the reason I think it's worked well for us is because we're in a weird niche. So the dental, everybody wants to leave dental right now because you have to work in the office in dental. There is no remote. And so people are trying to leave the industry. And so we're a good option to come to. But we're not sexy enough to like where top end marketers want to come. Like no marketers out there like, when I grow up, I want to work in dental. Like no such thing, right? So like we're in this weird in between where we can get people from dental, and then we've gotten some really good marketers who understand dental. Like they've been in dental their whole life, marketing, and they learned marketing in dental. So we've gotten a lot of those kind of people as well. So that's what's worked well for us.
This is a perfect segue, actually, because one of the things that I'm really curious about, I know that at the top here, you kind of shared a lot of the success that you've amassed in the journey of coming to where you are right now, but I'm sure it wasn't all sunshines and rainbows. What were some of the bigger challenges that you faced kind of going through that, in terms of like, obviously niching down into dental? Like you said, nobody really chose that, but when you find your thing, you kind of double down on it, right? So how did that play out for you?
Such a good question. Okay, so when I first started out, I had some really defeated mindsets, right? And I think these are mindsets that you have to overcome if you're going to grow your business. So number one is I grew up around sports. So I thought winning and losing from a sports standpoint. So I was like, you don't ever lose. Like you always win. Like Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, right? I hate losing more than I love winning mentality. And the problem with that is that Simon Sinek has a book. It's called The Infinite Game. We're playing basketball is a finite game. Okay. So like one of my goals used to be, I want the biggest and the best dental marketing agency. Well, we're not playing basketball. Basketball has a beginning and an end. Everybody knows the score. Everybody knows the rules. And we are agreeing to play each other. And then at the end, we agree on the winners and losers. We're in business. It's an infinite game. It's going to keep going even after we're gone, right? Like people are going to keep playing this game, and you're really competing against yourself. And so when you say things like, I want to be the biggest and the best, like, what does that mean? Who are you competing against? Do they know you're competing against them? What are the rules to the game? Like it doesn't exist. So really what happens is you realize, okay, I'm actually playing a game against myself, which removes a lot of the pressure, right? Because now I'm not aiming for this random thing. And when you're competing against yourself, you can actually improve. You can actually get towards your goal, right? Like, am I better than I was last year? One of the mindsets that I like is like, if you're not embarrassed of who you were a year ago, you probably didn't grow very much. So every year I want to be embarrassed of me a year ago. And so that's just competing against myself. It doesn't have anything to do with you guys. It doesn't matter what you guys do or not do. It's just me against myself. So that's one. The other thing is getting out of the scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset. And I know people talk about this a lot, but I think marketing is specifically, we can get really trapped in this. So what I used to do is I used to say, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody my secrets. I'm going to keep everything to myself. And if you want to work with me, then I'll show you how I do things, but I'm going to keep everything under lock and key. And that was because I had a limited mindset. I thought that there wasn't enough for me to be successful as well as all the other people in our industry. I was sorely mistaken. Not only can I be successful, but all people that would deem themselves as competitors to us, they can all reach their goals. I can reach my goal, and there would still be an abundance of opportunity, right? And so what I flipped around was I'm actually going to tell everybody everything that we do. I'm going to give all the secret sauce. And then what I started to do is all my content, like webinars, podcasts that I go on, I would make all my content for the do-it-yourselfers. The ones that would never work with us, the ones that wanted to do all the stuff by themselves. I knew if I could make them happy that I did a good job, because then the experts that didn't want to spend the time on marketing, they wanted to spend the time on what they're experts in dental, would come directly to me because they're like, this guy knows what he's talking about. And it's exactly what happened. Like all the bigger players started to come to us because I repositioned. The best illustration of this, I heard someone share this one time. They said they went to a real estate seminar, and the real estate agent said, I'm going to teach you how to sell your home. And she did this long presentation, and it was like very technical. And at the end of the show, half this audience walked out and the other half walked down there to go say, hey, can you help me sell my house? Right? Like, because they sat there and they said, oh, this lady's clearly an expert. She clearly knows what she's talking about. So it actually weeds out the wrong people. The other thing was I had to get over that failing thing. Like, I had to really learn how to let myself fail. And in an infinite game, it's much easier to fail. And then, but then I had to give my team permission to fail. And that's a hard one. Most people really struggle with that. I've gotten really good at it. And I'm just like, hey, basically what I tell people now when we start, like if we were working together, I'd be like, hey guys, here's where we're going. I totally made this up. These are totally random goals. We may or may not hit them. In fact, I'm pretty sure that we're going to fail. And here's what I expect from you guys, and how all I ask is that you guys grow and learn from it. And if we all do that, and I'm going to learn along the way, and I'm going to get better at making projections and things like that, then we'll win. How's that sound? And now most people don't believe me when I say it, when they first start working with me, but over time they start to believe it, right? Now, where I don't let failure is like negligence. So if someone's like, oh, I was up all night because I was playing Call of Duty and so I missed all the meetings, that's not acceptable, right? That's not the failure I'm talking about. I'm talking about, man, I tried this new thing, or you know what, I tried to do it the way that you said, but it didn't work, and I tried it this other way and that didn't work either. So now I'm back to the drawing board. That's the kind of failure that is really good. And so those are the mindsets that just pop into my head as you're saying that. And then the other thing was culture. This is a big one. So I used to think culture was just a fluffy word that people use to sell books. Literally, if someone came and asked me like, what do you think about company culture? It's just garbage, right? Like, it doesn't mean anything. I was like really, really wrong about this. You can have a place that people love to work, but you have to genuinely care about the people. And then you also have to create systems to measure how they're feeling day to day. And if you can do those two things, people will love working with you. You'll get passionate people. And I'm really, really big on that. That's like my number one job. That's actually my one number that I own in the company is our pulse score. Every week I see the pulse score of how's everybody doing in the company. I know exactly where they're at. I know if they're struggling personally or professionally. And that's really the secret to scaling, is having an amazing team.
So how do you go about measuring culture? That was just a really interesting thing that I picked up on. And what you were saying was that it's not just a fluffy word. Like, you actually have some metrics here that you're using to indicate a direction. And I think that'd be super valuable for anybody listening. What do you implement to kind of measure that stuff?
Yeah. So we have a rule. If you don't, data over feelings, right? So, and we actually use that in our marketing, but I also tell our team all the time, like, if you don't have data on this, then you're guessing, right? That's okay. Sometimes we have to guess, right? We don't have all the data in all the world. So what we do is we do what's called a pulse score. And so every week, everybody in the company has a one-on-one meeting with their manager. And number one, I make sure that everybody's having those meetings. Sometimes people miss, they're sick, they would go on vacation. But outside of that, you should be meeting with your manager every week. There should be clear, and we're not perfect at this, but we're getting better. Clear winners and losers. What does winning look like? If you can't get clear on winning, no one will like their job for very long. If people are just there doing monotonous tasks, they won't like their job for very long. So what does winning look like? And can you see it in data? Can we see it week by week? So that's number one. Number two, we then measure how they're feeling. And we define this very clearly. So 5 is they're amazing. 4, really good. 3, subpar. 2, I'm doing horrible. And 1, it couldn't be worse. And I ask them to give us their pulse score based on personally and professionally. Now, I get a lot of pushback on that. So we kind of I'm almost 40 years old. So I came from the generation that was raised by like the factory workers and those kind of things. So we were taught that you go to work, whatever's happening at home, you forget it. Go to work, you do a good job. Then when you're done with work, whatever happened to work doesn't matter. Don't bring it home. Like I'm a virtual company. So literally everybody's working in their bedroom, right? Like I'm in my bedroom right now. And so we're all working in our house. How do I separate those two? Like if my kid's up all night screaming and then I have to wake up and then come in here and work and the kid's still sick, like and they couldn't go to school, like how do I separate that? I don't think you can. I don't think it's realistic. So I just tell people, look, I don't need to know all your personal problems. If you don't want to share it, that's fine. But I do need to know if you're struggling personally and professionally, because that's the only way I can help you. And this goes to vulnerability. this is another mindset thing, is that you have to learn to be vulnerable with your team. So one thing I always tell people is like, I'm good at like 3 or 4 things, like really good at those. And then I'm bad at about like 4 billion things that I would just totally botch. And I just talk about that a lot. Like, these are the things I'm not good at that. Like, I'll help you if I can, but that's not my strength. So just being vulnerable with your team, that builds trust. And then they get vulnerable with us. And then what happens is if someone's sick, we all rally around to help them. If I'm sick, people say, hey, what can I do to help you? And this is how you build, I believe this is how you build like people who really want to help each other. Because really, no one cares about the corporation, right? Like, no one cares. What people really care about is each other, because we're people and they have bonds there. And I really care about our team. So when our team's sick, if someone's pulse score's low, so answering your question, if someone's a 3 or below, and everybody knows this, I'm following up with a manager. What's going on? You know what? I just had this situation. Oh, they just lost their fiance just lost their mom, and they're struggling. Okay, cool. Reach out to HR. Hey, HR, and the managers do this as well. Hey, HR, let's send their fiance a plant, right? Oh, my kid's sick and has COVID again. We had to take him out of school again, or struggling at school, whatever. Okay, cool. Let's send dinner there and help them out, so that way they don't have to think about dinner, those kind of things. Same way that you treat your family, right? And I'm not saying work is the same as family, because it's not, but the same way you treat them because you care for them, you check in with them, you send them things, you recognize them on their birthday, you have anniversaries with them, like all those things that you do for your family, just do it for work, and then really actually care and follow up on it. And it goes so far. The other thing that we measure is, it's called an ENPS score. So have you ever heard of like a net promoter score for a business?
Yeah.
So you send out to your employees or to your customers a net promoter score. That promoter score will tell you how likely they are to refer clients to you. And then they'll tell you who's neutral and then who will reject you. Well, you can, or is about to leave you. You can do an ENPS score. An ENPS score is an employee net promoter score. It's totally blind, so they can submit the answers. We're getting ready to do another one. Our last one was 78. With a team of 75 people, it's like unheard of culturally to have a score that high. Like, a really good score is like 30, 40. Like, those are killer scores for teams our size. So we have 75% of our team that would tell their friends or family to come work with us.
That's pretty powerful. I'm curious now. So I've always been a huge subscriber to the idea of community. The saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child, but it doesn't just stop there when you're raising a child. As people get older, there are different stages in their life where they need support and they need people to kind of come around them. So being able to foster that inside of a workplace, I think arguably is one of the biggest things missing in the big corporation structure.
100%.
What influenced you to implement that in your world?
So I heard a lot of people talking about it, right? Like tons of people like culture. And I'm like, okay, we got to hire it, right? Because I don't know how to do it, right? And I've been horrible at it up to this point. Like, I've had people tell me they hate me and I ruined their life, and I've had people sue me, you know what I mean? So I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm doing, you know what I mean? And then I was like, one day I was like, you know what? Let me just get the data. I want the data. I followed my rule on everything else. And my business partner is actually really good at figuring things out like that. So I said, help me figure this out. I will man the culture stuff if I have like a system. He's like, all right. So he sets it up, sets the infrastructure up. And then I start to get the data. And then I start to see like, oh, when I do this, it goes up. And when I do this, it goes down. Just like everything else in my life, right? Like every other marketing or anything like that. But they're real people. Like, I know them, right? But so are the people we're running ads to that we're driving into the dental practices.
Right. If you don't know people, you can't do your job very well.
Bingo, right? Like, and I know we remove ourselves from that when we get into CAC and we get into all these, all those things. But really, at the end of the day, it's just, they're all people. And so when you really start to think about that you're helping people or you're helping people reach their goals, that's big. And the other thing is, I tell people all the time, like, hey, we're not for everybody. Our marketing company, all of our clients, we're not for everybody. Our team, we're not for everybody. Like, if you don't, we went through a really hard stage where when we 4X'd, it was so painful because we didn't have infrastructure. Like most people don't have infrastructure to 4X, right? Like you're not even thinking that way. And so we got there and it was so messy. And then we went back and we said, okay, we got to put all this infrastructure in. And we had money to do it now. It made it a little bit easier. So we're putting money in, dumping it back into the company. And a lot of people said, not a lot, but several handful, were like, you guys changed. And we're like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, now there's all these systems. And it was like, well, yeah, because before we had a team of 20, now we have a team of 70. We need, like, I can't see everything. Like, I need systems. There needs to be layers. There needs to be managers. And not everybody likes that. And that's okay. And that's what I explained to him is like, look, before I let you had a lot of autonomy because I could see everything, right? I could feel everything. I can't anymore. I'm accountable to this. I need systems to be able to produce me the numbers that I need to be able to see. That's going to be a little bit painful. And I know that's not for everybody. So that's okay. And I told him someday, let's say the company grows to $100 million a month in recurring revenue and we do an IPO. I might not want to be a part of that. Like I might not like that structure or that environment. So I'm not knocking you. There's probably somewhere else that you could probably bring a lot of value. So just being really like getting transparent with people that way and very head on. And even like when people left us bad Glassdoor reviews, I would screenshot them, repost them, and just talk about them. You know what I mean? And just be honest. And people love that. It attracted the right people and it repelled the wrong people. And I doubled down on all of our like why, our core values, all that kind of stuff.
You don't have to answer this, but
before.
what's your turnover rate for employment?
It's super low right now. So it was really high for a little bit while we grew, like, and then we cycled, and then it was super low. So we had like an 88, something like that, 86 NPS score. We dropped all the way down to like a 50 something, 40 something, which is still really a good score. And we were losing. I don't like to lose anybody. Like that's my mindset. Like one is too many. And so we lost like a handful of team members, and then which we knew was going to happen. And then now we don't have any turnover. Like people are like, how do I make this? I have several people that are like, how do I make this for my forever home? Like where I retire from.
I've seen a lot of the studies we've done, a lot of the businesses we've worked with and examined. There is a huge correlation between turnover and culture. And, so for you to see that culture wasn't there at the beginning, turnover was. Now culture, was growing, turnover's next to none. We had a guest, Kobe Simmet. He's a huge believer and he has live examples all the time of businesses that people will stay for less money if the culture is there.
Yeah.
Like I think people underutilize that all the time. What's
cool is we actually pay really well too. So it's like we're based in California, Southern California. And so like that's just where our mindset is. Well, that means in Indiana, or Illinois or wherever, you're going to make more money, right? Than what you're going to make compared to California is a lot higher pay. And then, so we kind of base everything off of that. And then we really try to work smarter on all the like the VA stuff where we can bring in support where if someone's like, I love this about my job, but I hate this about my job. I actually just had a project manager that did this. She's like, man, I'm kind of getting burnt out because she's like works directly with me. And I'm like, okay, well, what can we do about that? And I'm like, what do you like hate doing? Tell me what you hate doing. Tell me what you love doing. She's like, I don't know. I said, document it. I want you to track it. And so she wrote it down. And these are the things today I hated. These are the things I loved. And I was like, I for $500, I can take all that off your plate. Like all those bad things and free you up mentally to go do more cool stuff with me. And she's like, okay. And so like doing that kind of stuff it's so huge, right? Like, and I double down. Like if you're not passionate about what you do, you should quit. I say that all the time. If you're not passionate about what you're doing with us or any job, your life is too short. Like go find what you're passionate about. Go do it, pursue it, start it, build it. I'm so for that. And when you find what you're passionate about, like this stuff we're talking about right now, this is not work to me. This is not, I'd do this all day long.
My last question because I know Devin's going to want to wrap up here.
Yeah.
But you were saying before you did this, and I can relate to this so well, you bounced around from job to job. I have that same experience. My resume, like I don't even put half the stuff that I did on my resume because it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
But for me, And a lot of businesses, a lot of hiring people, not that I have a job anymore because it's more entrepreneur, but they look at that and be like, oh, he's really flighty, he jumps around a lot. Whereas I look at it like, man, I have a little bit of experience from a million different places that have kind of set me up to where I am now, where I have this wide range of knowledge that I can sit down with. I'm not even a marketing guy. I can sit down with two marketing guys and have a complete conversation with them. I can sit down with somebody in retail. I can sit down with someone in construction. I view that as such a blessing and a rarity. Did you find that kind of set you up to succeed as well, as far as an entrepreneur go, because of your experience in different jobs?
The stuff I was in before was just like, I guess so. So like, I'm just thinking back to all the crazy jobs that I had. So I used to work in a call center and I sold credit cards in the call center, cold call credit cards, right? Like, so you're like, it's automatically ringing and then you're reaching out. That for sure. Like, if you can do that, you know what I mean? You can do anything. And then I was good at that. So they were like, in the same call center, they were like, hey, we have some guys that do mortgages. You could sell mortgages. I'm like, cool. So I'd literally pick up the phone and call people in Florida and be like, hey, do you want to refi your house? And cold calling, right? Like, I didn't realize it at the time. That's super hard to do. And so I think that really just trained my brain. And they were like, oh, you're not going to make money unless you sell something. That also trained my brain. Like, I loved that. Like, I was like, they were like, or we can give you minimum wage plus a little bonus. I was always like, no, I don't. I'll take the big bonus. Thank you.
Give me with that commission.
Yeah, just give me the commission. So those things did, but it's like, what I would say too, if someone was out there and they were like, I have all these jobs, I've jumped around, because that would be a red flag to me too. Like, why didn't you stay and grow those? I would present that as, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm passionate. Like, if I was selling it and trying to get a job somewhere, I'd be like, look, I'm passionate about helping businesses grow. And I just like, I'm a fanatic about it. As long as I have that opportunity, I'll stay here and help you. But as soon as that opportunity is gone and I'm stagnant, I'm out. Like, that's how, but I wasn't emotionally as self-aware, emotionally as mature as I was back then. Right. So I didn't even know why I was bored. I just was bored.
Yeah. Okay. So we've kind of reached the end of things here. I want to try out a new thing, where we offer up suggestions for recommended reading, because I think that a big part of growth comes from investing in yourself and growing your knowledge base. Could you offer a book that you've read recently or something that you've read along your journey that has helped shape the entrepreneur that you are today?
There's so many. There's so many good books out there, and there's a lot of bad books, but there's so many good books. So leadership, if you want to grow in leadership, it's Leadership and Self-Deception. Now, I always warn people, if you read that book, it'll literally change all of your relationships and how you perceive things. It talks about getting out of the box and not putting people in the box, and that's so powerful. Who Not How is a great book, especially as you get a little bit bigger, you have a little bit of money to spend on hiring the right people. That one's a really easy read too. Like, you could bang through that. Profit First is a really good book for you financially. If you really want to, if you were like me, like I operated my business not profitable on purpose, and it was just really stupid strategy. But I think a lot of business owners do that, and Profit First kind of helps you through a structure to work around that. The other one is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It tells you literally what you have to do to, why like your team doesn't trust each other and how to get them to trust each other. And I'm trying to think if there's any others that I forgot. I know there's a couple that I'm forgetting that are really good, but those are the main ones off the top.
Love it. I appreciate you lending us your time today and sharing your knowledge and expertise and your story. If anybody watching wants to get a hold of you, where would they do so?
Yeah, so all my social media is The Gary Bird, and you can get on there. I manage all of it, so it's me there, and sometimes people post videos for me and stuff. But like, best way to probably like DM me is Instagram, because I can do voice on that, so I usually get back to those a little bit faster.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here today. That's a wrap for this one, and I guess we'll see you all in the next episode.
Great job, guys.